In today's episode, you will be coming along with us as we share one of our favourite things to do in a new city. We do this everywhere we go, and today's the day you do it with us. So, what is it? Well, we like to walk out our front door and say, which way, left or right, and then just go and see what we can find. Well, on this day, we went left and walked along Via Corso, the main road that used to be a horse racing track. Listen as we come across the gigantic Piazza Popolo with the three basilicas, an Egyptian obelisk, three fountains, and the impressive original city gates. From there, we take you with us up a marble staircase that leads up to the highest point in the city of Rome, the Pincian Hill, which has amazing views of the city. Apparently, Rome has 1,000 churches, and you can see a lot of the domes of those churches from this vantage point. Of course, that wasn't all there was on this hill. Come with us as we wander around the stunning, enormous Borghese Gardens. You know I love gardens. You will hear about the lakes with islands in the middle that you can row around to see the temples, hear about all the galleries with more stunning centuries-old art, and then Lyle tells you about the original water clock. Yep, a water clock. From there, we will take you down the most stunning street in Rome. It's just like a movie set. Via Vittorio Veneto. Even sounds like a movie. And this goes all the way down to the famous fountain. No, not the Trevi yet, but a fountain designed by Bernini of Triton spurting a jet of water into the air through a shell and being held up by 4 dolphins in Piazza Barberini. Next on our walking journey was another amazing piazza, Piazza Quirinale, which is the official residence of the President of the Italian Republic. Of course, our day would not be complete if we didn't visit the Trevi fountain, and it was just as beautiful as you can imagine. 26 metres high and 49 metres wide. Oh, it was beautiful. But stay listening to the end to hear about the last place we went on our journey, our walking loop around Rome, which involves Spain, France, and Tom Cruise. Make sure you subscribe or follow us on the podcast player you are listening on now so you are the first to know when our next Italian episode is published. So please enjoy episode 67. Cheers! And welcome to the Beach Travel Wine Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Leanne.
And I'm Lyle, and this is the travel podcast for beach-loving, wine-drinking couples over 50.
So if that sounds like you, grab yourself a drink, sit back, relax and listen as we go travelling the world, one wine at a time.
Cheers.
Buongiorno, Lyle.
Ciao, baby.
Here we are once again in the podcast studio, and today I'm excited because we are going to be talking about one of the favourite things we like to do when we travel, yeah?
Yeah, I think, is that what you, when you say we walk the city?
Yeah, well, we like to, obviously we've done lots of tours and we find out all this information, but one of our favourite things to do is walk out our front door and say, which way, left or right?
Sure.
And that's what we did today, and it ended up being like a huge sort of loop, a walking loop, and we discovered so many things on the way, which we're going to fill you in. But tell everyone what happened when we walked out that day into our little dingy, cobblestone street.
Yeah, well, we actually took the turn and turned right, and extraordinarily, the thing that we noticed, or which we hadn't noticed before, is all the shutters were up, and we were surrounded by
art galleries,
beautiful art galleries, and expensive watch shops. And we'd been there a couple of days, and the shutters had been down,
and they got graffiti on them, and they've got all
shutters,
these motorbikes parked in front of them. So we had no idea.
Yeah, and it would look very, very, very exclusive.
So we've gone from thinking we're in a dingy area to upmarket. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. And so you said we went right. I thought we went left.
You're probably right, because you reckon I get lost in the corridor. So
I'll take the wrong turn in the hallway, I say. So let's say we went left.
Okay.
Yeah, and we ended up at the Via del Corso, which is that main road, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
tell us about that, because that's interesting.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most famous streets in Rome, and it goes for about 1.5 km.
Yeah.
And it's bordered at one end with the Piazza Venezia, Venezia,
Venezia.
yeah. And at the other end, it's Piazza Popolo.
Okay. And we decided we were going to go to Piazza Popolo.
Yeah, because that's where one of the entrances is to the Borghese Gardens,
which is what I wanted to go and
yes,
see.
Yes, she did.
But the Via del Corso, you know, like it's about one, as you said, 1.5 kilometers long between those two main plazas, and the Piazza Venezia is sort of up towards the Colosseum end, and the other one, as you said, is Popolo. But it used to be back in, you know, like in, I don't know, 15th century or something. Wasn't there like a race that went on there?
Yeah, the road served as a race track during the Roman Carnival for an annual running of riderless horses.
Right.
And that was
at least it wasn't headless horses.
And it was called the Corsa de Barbari, which is the source of the name of Via del Corso now. Look, it's a really quite an upmarket street. It's got all the big brands and all the big names, and also there's lots of churches. I think I counted
six churches or something.
Yeah,
wasn't there?
And
this is in 1.5 kilometers.
Yeah, and the Gallery Alberto Sordi, which was he was a famous Italian actor, and that's basically a galleria like the one in Milan. So
there's also restaurants.
Yeah, there's restaurants. Look, it's pretty. There's also the Palazzo of Chigi, and I'm not sure whether I said that properly, but that's actually the residence of the serving Italian Prime Minister. And the Piazza Colonna with the ancient column of Marcus Aurelius is towards the centre.
We came across that because that's not far from where we were. That's one of the first things we saw. And I'm just like, what the heck's this, right? Because it's huge and it's covered in decoration, yeah?
Yeah, look, it's Marcus Aurelius was emperor from 161 to 180 AD.
Right.
He was also known as a Stoic philosopher.
And just excuse me, if I have this right, he was the good guy in the movie Gladiator.
Yeah, he was. He was
the father of the bad guy.
Commodus.
Yeah.
Okay. Commodus, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've got the right guy.
Yes. And in the movie, his son strangled him or suffocated him, but in real life that didn't actually happen.
Sorry, get back to your Marcus Aurelius column.
Yeah, so the column is a Doric column featuring spiral relief. It was built in honour of the Roman emperor and modelled on Trajan's column.
There's another column which is similar,
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. The column is 39.7 metres or 130 feet high. Consists of 28 blocks of Carrara marble hollowed out for a stairway of 200 steps within the column up to the platform at the top.
I needed to go back and have a look at the photos I took of that, because it just looked like a obelisk when I thought about it. But when you go back and you know, like, have a look at it, to have that, I didn't realise it was so big that it had the stairs inside it.
Yeah, and the spiral picture relief tells the story of Marcus Aurelius' Danubian wars waged by him from 166 till his death. My favourite quote from Marcus Aurelius, I've actually read his whole book. Actually, it was your son, Cody, gave it to me.
Yes.
Thanks, Codes. And it's called Meditations. And what are you laughing at? Why are you laughing at that?
I'm laughing because Lyle and meditation just don't go together. But anyway, go on.
Well, it's actually not a story. It's just his thoughts that came to him.
So quotes, really. Some of them are
quotes,
pretty cool.
Yeah. So one of my favourites is you have power over your mind, not outside events. And the 5 main themes of Stoic philosophy.
Oh, okay. So that's what he was. Sorry. Okay.
Is change, death, and the shortness of life.
Right.
Second is the role of the importance of a rational mind.
Yes.
3, dealing with others and accepting their shortcomings. You do that all the time for me, so you're up there. Avoiding the chase for pleasure and fame.
Ooh.
Neither of us are sure about that. And living according to the nature and fully accepting its course.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so if we run out of money, we run out of money.
Right.
There you go.
Well, we're giving it a good crack.
But it is impressive. And the fact that it goes up and there's a staircase inside, and it gets thinner and thinner towards the top.
Yeah, I'd love that, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
So the Via del Corso, it's at one end, especially at the end of the day, there's a lot of people walking. Even though cars do drive up that way, it's mainly pedestrian, I think you'd say, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think on the weekends they actually close it to traffic.
So we've walked out a door. Lyle's gone right, I've gone left. We've met at Via del Corso, and we've seen the column of Marcus Aurelius, all the shops and churches and galleries and that sort of stuff. And
we have arrived at the Piazza del Popolo.
You can't miss it.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's probably the biggest square I've ever seen.
Yeah, like 17,000
square meters.
Yep. Like absolutely gigantic. Yeah. And the way we came out in between these two churches. Like they're like twins on each side.
Yeah, they are. They call them the twin churches.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yep. And then there's the obelisk, and that's huge. And the obelisk is an authentic Egyptian treasure. It was brought to Rome by Emperor Augustus in 10 BC to honour the Roman Empire's quest of Egypt. And so that's actually got the inscriptions on it, the Egyptian.
I think there's more.
It's actually genuine.
Sorry, you don't need to go to Egypt. Just go to Rome because, if you want to see an Egyptian obelisk, they're all in Rome.
Yeah, and the churches, the twin churches are the Santa Maria del Miracoli and the Santa Maria in Montesanto. Most impressive fountain, Neptune's fountain depicts Neptune with his Triton and 2 dolphins.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Now, there's also another pretty famous church there called the Santa Maria del Popolo.
Oh, that's the one they reckon's haunted.
Yes, that's correct, because it was built on Nero's tomb. Grave. Yeah. And he was weird. Yeah. He killed his mother because he was having an affair and she wasn't keen on it. And then he committed suicide.
Oh, and then he also built a big bath.
He did.
Which is in the Vatican.
Yeah, and the church contains 2 famous Caravaggio paintings and Rome's oldest stained glass windows.
Oh, I didn't know that. And also at the Piazza del Popolo, this 17,000 square metre massive, is the ancient city gates.
Correct. Yeah. From the northern gate.
Yeah. So that sort of lines up with the Via del Corso, doesn't it?
Correct. Yeah. That's exactly right.
So it's certainly worth, and that wasn't the piazza wasn't sort of on our list of things to do. But I'm so glad we went to see that. Yeah.
If you remember when we went for a walk the night before, and we actually it was actually set up for a radio station rock concert.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because we don't speak Italian, we thought that was pointless staying. So, but yeah, look, it's very impressive.
If you've listened to any of our previous podcasts, you would know that I love a garden, don't I?
Yes, you do.
And one of the things I wanted to explore was this big green area above the Piazza del Popolo, and it's called the Borghese Gardens, right? Yes. And I know
or should I say C?
C. And they're actually on top of the hill, which is the Pincian Hill. I think that's
correct. Pincian Hill, and that's the highest point
in Rome.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the city of Rome, anyway.
Yes, of course. And the Borghese Gardens covers 80 hectares. Huge.
See.
And it was from 1606. It was converted from an old vineyard. Yeah.
That's correct. By Cardinal Scipione Borghese. Scipione Borghese. I'm getting good at this. We're going to have about 20 bloody Italian podcasts, and by the end of it, I'm going to sound like I'm Italian, I'm sure.
There we go. So the thing I first noticed about because we walked up this big sort of sweeping marble staircase from the bottom, from the back of the the Popoli Plaza.
Yep.
And, really had no idea. You can't see up there. Obviously, it's too high. So we're walking up the stairs, and then there's a bit of a path. And the first thing you come across is really like a viewing platform.
Yeah, that's Pincian, which is the Pincian terraces. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that looks back over the city of Rome.
Correct.
And as we said, it's the highest point. So the views are spectacular, right?
Yeah, and it's almost like it's adjacent to St. Peter's Dome. So
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah,
spectacular.
obviously I've got photos, what we're talking about, with the gardens and also the plaza. This is episode 67. But apparently Rome has, like, I've heard two numbers, 900, 1,000, a lot of churches, right? Yes,
See,
yeah. And when you're up there at this, the what is it, the Pincio,
NCL, yeah,
yeah, it's like count the domes.
sure.
Yeah, and every church has a dome, and it's pretty impressive to see. But obviously, St. Peter's Basilica stands out as the biggest. You can find that easily, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you're taking the views, you sort of look around, and the green trees and the grass just go on forever, and you just think it's this one sort of spot, and you walk along the paths which are lined with statues and shady trees, and there's cafes, and then that you sort of cross a little road and there's another whole area, and then you cross another road and there's another whole
It's
area.
huge.
Like, there's so much. So gardens is probably not the best description because there's galleries and temples and zoos, and you tell us what's there.
Yeah. I think if we probably Leanne and I, or Leonita, should I say, and I probably let ourselves down. We thought we were just going to see a nice garden. It was unbelievable. It's got the zoo Bioparco.
Yeah, a zoo, like a whole zoo.
That's a zoo, and they've got lions, tigers, birds, bears, and reptiles. And it's open from 9:30 to 6, and it's €16 for adults and 13 for kids. There's the Globe Theatre.
That's where you can see opera.
Yeah, you see the opera, and it's a replica of Shakespeare's open-air Globe Theatre.
Yeah.
There's also an outdoor movie.
Yeah, outdoor
at
cinema.
the Casa del Cinema.
Sing.
And there's also Casino de Raffaello, and that's a kids' play centre. It's also a library and bookshop.
Yeah.
And we know none of this. No. There's also the Temple of Asclepius. Asclepius stands on an artificial island.
It's on an island in the middle of the lake. There's a lake.
Yeah, it's a lake, and actually you can hire rowboats, and the spiel says fabulous photos, which I'm sure you got some fabulous photos. So that's
and it's like your standard temple with your columns at the front, and it looks magical. It's right on the water's edge. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got the Piazza Siena.
Yes.
Now that's just a huge square, and they used to have concerts there. I'm not sure whether they still do now, but it's huge and it's beautiful. It's green, like it's amazing.
And you can also see some pretty spectacular art at the Borghese Gallery, right?
Yes. You've got that houses an impressive collection of Baroque, Renaissance, and Roman art. Yeah. It houses paintings and sculptures such as Apollo and Daphne, David with the head of Goliath's paintings, mosaics by Bernini, Caravaggio, and Raphael. Yeah. You can book the tickets in advance. Because you have to actually, because you have there's a set entrance time. The book online tickets are €27. It's open from 9 till 7 every day except Monday. It's closed Mondays, but yeah, like it's
so there's a lot up there.
Like it's incredible. Like you just keep walking and walking, and it's actually quite flat on the top. Yeah. So there's no effort to it. But we saw all sorts of.
Yeah, I was just about to say. We're walking along the roads. I mean, obviously, my priority was to find someone to have a coffee, and so there's there's cafes. There's not a lot, but there's a few cafes and restaurants up the top, and right in the beautiful under the shady trees. And while we were sitting there having a croissant and coffee, we could see all these families riding past on bikes, but not individual bikes. They were tandems, or some of them had like a little canopy, and they were just riding around the park. Now there's no vehicles inside the park, so it's pretty safe until.
Hasn't there? I remember seeing golf carts.
Yeah, maybe the golf carts. Yeah, but there's no it's not like a road that cars can drive through until you've actually got to cross a main road because the park goes on so far, right?
Yeah, and then you suggested we could get a tandem bike.
Yeah.
And then I thought, don't be ridiculous. But just quickly going back to that, I'll tell you a funny story about Cardinal Borghese now.
Oh, that'd be great.
And how
I love a
him
funny
and the
story.
relationship between him and Caravaggio.
Yes.
Now, I know I'm obsessed with Caravaggio, but you just got to put up with it. Caravaggio got actually quite ill, and he was in hospital, and he was in the paupers area of the hospital.
Right.
So because he had no money. So the Cardinal walked through, spotted it was Caravaggio.
Yes.
And knew of his, fabulous artwork. So then the Cardinal made sure that he got much better treatment. And then once he was better, he moved into the villa.
Yes.
And to repay the Cardinal,
right.
Caravaggio did a whole bunch of paintings for him.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
That's where they got those ones from.
Well, one other thing that was in the gardens before we move on, I did mention the statues. Like the paths were lined literally with statue after statue, like marble statue after marble statue. It also has a interesting, I can't remember the proper name of it, but it's a water clock.
Yes, I do, and I know what the water clock is.
It's a hydro something or other, isn't it?
It's a hydrochronometer.
Right.
And it was invented. This was invented, and it was in 1873.
Yes.
And it works 24 hours 7.
24 hours 7.
How does it work? Tell me.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, to be honest, it had like a revamp and got fixed, and it's started working again in 2022, March 2022.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But it's actually, and when you think water clock, you think, what is it? It's actually like a big grandfather clock, and it sits on a island inside the lake as well. And it works from the water, from the fountain, fills up things and makes it, turn over.
Yes. So it fills up cups. And
sure. That's impressive enough, but the thing that was the most difficult was to make it precise.
Okay, so tell me.
I don't know. Well, don't know.
I think it'll be trial and error.
Probably trial and error. But it's like this grandfather clock, and it's down the bottom of it. It's sort of covered in moss, and it's encased in glass. So yes, it's pretty unusual to see a clock sitting in the middle of an island. To be honest.
Yeah, I think the Borghese Gardens are up there probably with some of the most beautiful gardens we've ever seen, and it was full of history, and the views were
villas,
great.
And there's other villas, and there's galleries, and there's formal gardens, and there's huge green spaces, and there's lots of play areas for kids and all that. And when we were there, it was full of families, so local families out enjoying their weekend. It was fabulous, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it a Saturday?
I think so.
Yeah, and we were lucky again. We jagged a perfect day.
It was a perfect day. So continuing our exploration, our walk around Rome, we then left reluctantly the Borghese Gardens, and we sort of found a really cool exit, didn't we?
Yeah. It's called the street that we went was the Via Vittorio Veneto, and as you walk through the Piazzale Brazil, which is a simple travertine arch flanked by 2 semi-cylindrical towers, almost 20 meters high, and then that opens onto the Porta Pinciana. Pincia, sorry.
Pincia.
I think I got that wrong, maybe. The Porta Pinciana.
So you're leaving the park and you can see these arches, and it looks like an old city wall, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. It is a gate of the Orion Wall, and that was built in 271 AD to 275 AD. The gate was built under the Emperor Horarianus in the early 5th century, opens onto Via Vittorio Veneto. And that was named after, I think, the Second World War, an actual one of the battles the Italians won.
Okay, so just to recap, we're leaving the Borghese Gardens, and we've found these gates that we're going to go through. not that we knew where we were going.
We had no idea.
No. So this is the great thing about exploring. And as you said, we came across Via Vittorio Veneto. Now, a big deal. You're saying I can hear you, but it was a big deal because Lyle and I were just like, are we in the movies?
It was incredible.
Yeah, it was just the most beautiful street.
Yeah, it was quite a wide street. It wasn't
really wide.
Yeah.
Big trees, like massive magnolia trees with these gorgeous big perfume flowers on them. It's lined with the most beautiful restaurants. And Lyle's favourite saying is, when we find somewhere nice, he's like, "Oh, this is the Paris end of Rome." We went past Harry's Bar, which I'm like, big deal, but that's where all the famous people were eating. But just to back up a bit before we start telling you exactly what the restaurants and things that were there, the whole street has a bit of history. You want to tell us a bit about that?
The street was built in the 1880s during a real estate boom. So they had real estate booms back then.
I wish I'd have got in on that real estate boom.
Yeah. So this was in the 1950s and 60s. It acquired international fame as the centre of La Dolce Vita.
La Dolce Vita, the sweet life,
the
right?
Sweet life, that's correct, Leonita. When its bars and restaurants attracted Hollywood stars. The film La Dolce Vita by Federico Fellini immortalised Via Veneto's hyperactive lifestyle, lights and crawling traffic. Some of Rome's most renowned cafes and five-star hotels like the Café de Paris, Harry's Bar.
Oh, de Paris, you were right.
Yeah,
the Paris end.
Yeah, well, maybe. But
sorry, Harry's Bar.
Yeah, Harry's Bar, the Regina Hotel, Baglione, and the Western Excelsior Rome are located in the Via Veneto. The Embassy of the United States housed in the Palazzo Margherita is also a location on the avenue.
Located on the avenue, yeah.
Now, the reason why we took photos of Harry's Bars is because our godson, Harry Jones, g'day Harry. So we saw Harry's Bar, and then so this morning I looked up what the significance of Harry's Bar is. Well, in that film,
La Dolce Vita.
Yeah, Frank Sinatra plays the piano, and so it's a pretty big deal. And he used to do that anyway, like in real life. People like Hollywood stars back there, Ava Gardner and Marlon Brando, and old Frank Sinatra used to quite often get on and tickle the ivories in that particular hotel.
What was interesting is we had no idea about this street. It wasn't like we'd done research or someone said you've got to check out that street. We just, left the gardens at the right place and just were just blown away by how beautiful it was. And it said that it was, it was immortalised as, lots of cars and busy. But the day we were there, it was not like that at all. There's this beautiful, big, wide street. And, I sort of was crossing over, taking photos of the restaurants covered in flowers. And then I was back over this side there was like a big, it's not like a straight street either. Like the top of it is, and then it does this huge, big, sweeping turn, like in the buildings, like curve around with it. Yeah, don't they? Like the big stone buildings, and the trees sort of follow the path around, and it was beautiful. Really,
Look,
go and have a look at the photos.
It's hard to do it justice because as we said earlier, the first thing we both looked at each other and went, "Are we in a movie?" Like it was just so beautiful. But then the piazza it finishes.
Yes, so we get down the bottom. It's not that long, like 500 metres or so. And then,
which is Piazza Barberini.
Yeah, so it finishes at Piazza Barberini at the bottom.
Yeah, and that was built in 1625 on the orders of Cardinal Francesco Barberini.
And
if
you haven't seen it, so you'd think, okay, this is pretty impressive. You get down the bottom and there's a massive big fountain in the middle of this square.
In the centre of the square stands the Fountain of Triton, sculptured in 1643. 4 dolphins hold up Triton god and the sea as the marks the jet of
the seashell, right?
Yeah, it comes out of the seashell.
Yeah,
again by Bernini. He was a busy man.
All right, here's a challenge, listeners. Lyle says dolphins. I know they're dolphins. apparently. But go and check out the pictures, because I reckon they look much more like a giant fish than a dolphin. Anyway, that's my point of view. But yeah, it's pretty impressive, the shell and the water coming out the top, and you're sort of back into reality then.
Listen, if Bernini did it,
it's a dolphin.
Okay. This is the guy that bloody designed the St. Peter's Basilica, so he knows what he's doing.
All right, yeah.
And then a short distance from the square is the Palazzo Barberini.
Oh, Barberini. That's what we just
Baroque
did.
palace that houses the Gallery Nazionale d'Arte Antica.
Right. So we're just still walking, right, at this stage, yeah? And we were actually going to meet up with some friends, a bit later on for lunch. So we sort of had a bit of an ending point where they were, but we didn't know how, where we're going to go on the way. And so after we've walked down this beautiful big, movie sort of street, and seen that at the bottom, the big fountain, Bernini fountain with Triton and the dolphins, we find another piazza.
Yeah, at the end of Via Veneto, we turned onto a Quattro Fontane, then onto Via del Quirinale. Now, the Quirinale. Quirinale. Yeah, that's it. That's got it.
I just love watching your face.
Quirinale Palace.
There.
I'm going to start using my hands like all the Italians do. Now, at the end, so...
The Quirinale Palace and Piazza,
is an historical building, and currently the official residence of the President of the Italian Republic.
Yeah, so, and it's a huge building, and it's got the Italian flags and other flags hanging up above it, and there's soldiers and security people all around the outside, and you get a bit of a look inside. You can see some of the big hallways and things like that. And then out the front of that is a big piazza with another fountain.
Yes.
And this one's even bigger.
Yes, it's the Piazza Quirinale is the Fountain dei Dioscuri.
Right.
So that's opposite the palace, and
it's got horses on it and a column in the middle, and it's massive, yeah?
Yeah, it's you've thrown me out.
Sorry.
The fountain and the obelisk,
obelisk.
with the prancing statues
of
Castor and Pollux stands in splendor in the piazza. The statues are over 5.5 meters high. The
massive.
Statues originally stood in front of the Baths of Constantine. It is a beautiful fountain which has a massive granite basin, which encloses the area, which was once a cattle trough in the forum. It's huge, but that's true. It was a cattle trough in the forum.
So you've got this big marble base, you've got the prancing, horses, and then you've got, guess what, another Egyptian obelisk in the middle of this fountain out the front of the historic building where the president of the Italian Republic lives.
Yeah, so
and I'd never heard of any of that either.
Yeah, so the actual statue is the Dioscuri, and that's it's a mythical story again about twin half brothers. I don't know how you twin half brothers together known as Dioscuri. So
twin half brothers known as Dioscuri. So it's not a bad walk we've been on so far, is it?
Yeah, well, the palace is open to the public on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays for those with reservations. Tours begin at 9:30 a.m. until the last entry at 11 a.m.
So you can go in and have a look.
It was designed as the summer residence for Pope Gregory XIII in 1573. The palace became the royal family residence after the unification of Italy, and Italy had become a republic. The palace became the presidential home in 1947.
Wow, that's fabulous information. Thank you for that. Well, we've had a pretty good walk so far, and it just kept getting better, right?
Yeah, this is the thing about Rome that we found, is that you don't even know where you're going, and every corner you turn, there's just something there that just blows your mind. So now, just near this,
from the Piazza Quirinale, there was a big sweeping staircase that went.
Correcto.
Thank you. It took us sort of down, and that was lined with statues as well. That in itself was, impressive. And you end up at
Fontana di Trevi.
That's it. Oh, well done.
So the Trevi Fountain is one of the oldest water sources in Rome, dating back to the ancient Rome since the construction of the Aqua Virgo aqueduct in 19 BC. That provided water to Roman baths and the fountains of central Rome.
Okay, so we've come across the Trevi Fountain. Yes. And it was like a water source, is what you're saying.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
It's from the aqueducts, and it's all worked on atmospheric pressure.
I mean, everyone's heard of the Trevi Fountain, and, you have to go and see it. And
it's bloody huge.
It is huge. Well, how big is it?
Okay, it stands 26 metres high or 85 feet.
Yeah.
And is approximately 49 metres wide or 160 feet.
So you've got this big wall, and it's covered in this sculpture, statues, where the water comes out and comes down into the great big sort of pond, which is beautiful blue at the bottom. And as Lyle said, it's massive. It's like this big half semicircle area, isn't it?
Look, it takes your breath away, to be honest, but it's funny, like when we were doing the research for this, I was trying to think actually what are the statues?
Mm.
And I think I was more blown away by the size of it and the water rather than what the statues actually are. And anyway, I had a look. At its centre is Pietro Brassi's statue Oceanus, who stands atop a chariot pulled by seahorses and is accompanied by tritons. The fountain also features statues of abundance and health. They're on each side of the actual the chariot.
Wow, okay.
Now, the interesting thing for me, because there's also a building behind it.
Yeah, so it's on a wall of a building.
Yeah. So, and I thought, I've never known what that building was. And it all goes together. So, and then I found out it's the Palazzo Poli. Is the palace that was altered in the 18th century to form the backdrop of the Trevi Fountain. The Conti family was responsible for many extensions and renovations, including demolishing the central portion of the building before 1730 to allow for the building of the Trevi Fountain.
So they took half the building out to build the fountain.
Yeah, which probably, in hindsight, was probably a pretty smart move. But
because most fountains you see are, like freestanding. You can walk all the way around them.
Yeah. But this is like you
can't. It's a wall.
And seriously, it's unbelievable. And so in 1730,
yes,
Pope Clement XII held a contest to redesign the fountain, and Roman-born architect Nicola Selvi was awarded the project. So it's important to let people know who actually designed it.
Yeah.
So, but look, it's the world's most famous fountain. Let's face it. And it lives up to it.
Yes, and yes, it is busy, but there's everybody can get close enough to get a nice photo, and go and have a look at the show notes that if on the player that you're listening on now, go to the description, and there'll be a link to episode 67, and you will see the photos that I took of the Trevi Fountain, and even Lyle and I in front of the Trevi Fountain, which, we're pulling some funny faces in those. Yes.
Were we? Oh, is that when you made me do that?
I made you do it.
She did.
Or whatever. I love the Trevi Fountain, and that surprised me actually, because I don't like to do what everyone else does, but you just can't help, as you said, be blown away by it. Yeah. But you got, yeah. But we're on a mission to explore, and we had to move on, and we had one more stop to complete our loop, which we didn't know at the time, but we actually did this whole big circle, and we ended up next, which isn't that far away.
No, nothing's far away.
No, from the Trevi Fountain at Piazza Spagna. And what is it, Piazza Spagna, Lyle?
It is one of the most famous squares in Rome, characterised by the famous Spanish steps, the presence of an authentic Egyptian ancient obelisk.
Another obelisk.
And a beautiful fountain by, you guessed it, Gian Lorenzo Bernini.
Another Bernini fountain.
So,
so if
you were quite impressed with the Spanish steps, because there was
Yes.
Wasn't there some sort of movie star or something?
Well, I didn't see a movie star, no. But however, before we go on to that, Lyle, tell me, like, okay, you've already brought that up. I'm going to thank you for spoiler alert. Thank you.
Sorry.
That was my stay to the end and listen to who the movie star was. And you've just, gone there.
Okay, stop. The Spanish Steps built between, because I get what you mean.
Thank you.
The Spanish Steps built between 1723 and 1726.
Okay.
There are 135 steps.
Yes.
On 3 different terraces, which is basically references the Holy Trinity. Now, represents figurative and metaphorically the close relationship between the sacred and the eternal city, shown through the elevation and the vastness of the monument, the longest and the widest in Europe. New regulations set in 2019 make it illegal to sit on the steps, with fines of up to €400. Standing at the top of the steps is the 16th century Trinita de Monte Church, which was built using French funds, having been commissioned by King Louis XII, sitting right next to the Villa Medici, with a garden continuous with the larger Borghese gardens. So basically the French built the church.
Yes.
A French diplomat actually commissioned the steps.
Right.
And it's called, why is it called Piazza
Spagna?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Should
I know?
Well, it's the Spanish Steps and the Spanish square is because the Spanish consulate was at the bottom of the stairs.
So does Spagna, is that Spain in Italian?
I guess so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, there you go.
See. And it's not just one flight of stairs. There's sort of 3 joined together. Yeah. Yeah. So it's quite wide, but don't sit down, as you said, right?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to sit there.
And we actually saw people being moved along that were sitting there having their lunch and that sort of stuff. So they've actually got people.
Yes, but I think another reason they were moving people along, and let's come back to that story that was nearly the spoiler alert, was there was a whole lot of activity happening. They were setting up all these, looks like screens and sound equipment, and and we're just like, oh, this looks exciting. What's going on here? Well, that night or the next day, it was the premiere of the new Mission Impossible movie, and Tom Cruise was actually going to be at the Spanish Steps. So he was there in Rome at the Spanish Steps, just like we were.
Well, we were a day early.
Yeah.
So that was because apparently the movie's all done all in Rome. Yeah.
Apparently, well, girlfriend said to me, "Oh no, Tom Cruise has ruined Rome, and my husband hasn't been there yet." So it must be pretty action packed. We haven't seen it, so yeah. Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible at the Spanish Steps.
Yeah.
And the Spanish Steps was only a couple of blocks from where we were staying, and if you looked up one street, the street where we had a little supermarket was on, whatever that street was, you can see the Spanish Steps, right at the end of that street, and that all the way up to that gorgeous French church.
Yeah, look, nothing's like we've done basically a complete circle almost of the city, and we've seen all these magnificent monuments, and it was like it took a long time because we were looking at stuff, but the distance is not that far.
No, although we did do a lot of steps that day. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed our walk around the streets of Rome and all the amazing things we've seen. Lyle, what was your favourite spot to in our walking tour?
That's a hard one.
Yeah. What sort of, when you saw it, you were like, wow, I didn't know that, or what was your highlight?
Look, I thought it was all pretty good. But for the wow, Trevi Fountain.
Okay. Yeah, that's damn you. The Trevi Fountain, but also, like, for me, I think the wow was being up the top of the Borghese Gardens with those views over the domes of Rome. Yeah, that was pretty impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would love to have seen that at sunset.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot more on Rome to come up in the next episodes as well, but we've hoped you've enjoyed this episode 67. So until next time, it's
Arrivederci.
goodbye.